Somebody has got to tell me what's up with all these driving schools near the pyramids. Okay, I swear to God, I'm losing my mind when it comes to it. But, today we're going to talk about conspiracies. We're going to talk about the pyramids, ladies and gentlemen, and possibly maybe aliens, okay? Maybe. Hidden secret societies. It's kind of an outlandish episode today on the magical world of Some Ordinary Gamers. So, I saw this Daily Mail Plus feed. I look up conspiracies all the time. And one of the things I got was a Daily Mail Plus exclusive. Scientists uncover second hidden city beneath Egypt's pyramids? So immediately when I hear, whoa, hold on, we didn't even prove the first city, we're already moving on to the second one? Okay, this is crazy. So, I'm just here, I'm like, all right, let me read this Daily Mail post real quickly. And scientists uncover a hidden underground city, have announced the discovery of a second city that says they prove the existence of a massive complex linking the Giza pyramids 2,000 feet beneath the surfaces, okay? Now, I couldn't actually open this because Daily Mail expects me to pay $1.99 for this, and you know my ass ain't paying $1.99 to no goddamn tabloid journalism, all right? So you know what? I'm gonna go look at this the old-fashioned way, with good old research. Now, one of my favorite places to research is, I'm not even joking with you, Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan's videos when it comes to any of this kind of stuff, okay? Joe Rogan invites some of the coolest guests you could ever find, and one thing I appreciate about Joe Rogan's content is that he will invite people that will challenge him. Like, pretty blatantly in this situation, okay? Now, not every episode is perfect, okay? I'm not gonna sit here and be the biggest endorser of Joe Rogan. But yeah, this is where I get most of my stuff from, okay? Whenever I need a laugh, I put on any episode with Terrence Howard, and I am fucking sent to the moon. Now, here he brought home Zahi Hawass. Now, for anybody that doesn't know who Zahi Hawass is, Dr. Hawass is the world's leading Egyptologist, meaning that this man knows pretty much everything there is, apparently, about the pyramids, okay? Now, there's a lot of controversy with him throughout the years, but I've covered it in previous videos. I want to play a clip where he actually talks about this specific research, this underground city, and then we'll recap there.
Pyramid is 28 feet of solid rock.
Right.
And there is no way that anything can be happened in the solid rock. And I explained...
I think what they're saying is it's underneath the solid rock, correct?
Let me finish. And I said...
I love that. Joe's like, actually, I think this is good. Let me finish, okay? You can see that Dr. Hawass is pretty much done with this. In fact, it's because of these claims that he's just going out and telling you that all of this is bullshit, okay? He is pissed off dealing with these scientists.
Your techniques that you published in this magazine is not refereed by scientists. You just published it. And number 3, the team that working in Giza with all these new techniques, they said, this is wrong. They know.
The team that's working in Giza with all these techniques, what do you mean?
We have the scan pyramid team.
Right.
They're working.
But you understand this is different technology.
I understand, but they know about this technology.
But have they used this technology?
No, they said this technology cannot work, cannot show 600 feet under the pyramid at all. This is what they said. And this is why, if the Italians were confident, they could contact me. Okay. I'm the pyramid expert.
He's the pyramid expert, and if these fucking Italian doctors knew anything about goddamn SAR technology, they could contact Dr. Hawass. So, visibly, one of the things that I kind of liked about this episode was a total fever dream. Like, it's 2 hours long, and I swear to God, if you have any interest in the subject, or you just want to see, like, you want to see this guy get, like, really pissed off dealing with this level of, like, shit, this is the episode. And obviously, I honestly really can't even blame him all that much. Regardless of all the controversy that, like, Zahi Hawass has really been through, the reality of all this is we are dealing with unconfirmed shit. So as soon as these, like, claims of a second city came out, immediately I went to my other place of, like, academic research, TikTok, where literally a day ago, not a day ago, this video from 4 days ago, ended up getting, like, tens upon tens of thousands of likes. And again, it was just footage of AI shit. Like, people were, like, this is AI generated imagery of what appears to be the guys from the back rooms going all the way down into this, like, underground area of the pyramids and just basically, capturing what appears to be the city or this underground network. Now, this is not real footage. This is just AI generated stuff. And thankfully, it's at least, we know that it's AI generated because just how it's filmed. But obviously not everyone is an intellectual when it comes to the AI generated stuff. And thankfully, the researchers, even when it comes to TikTok, at least also jumped in and said, nah, this shit ain't real. C'est vraiment une belle performance de l'AI. Thank you, France, for letting us know this was artificial intelligence, okay? Now, whether it was actually computers or actually Indians, I have no idea who made this, but it's just goofy shit, okay? Obviously, these backroom guys did not come across this fucking weird-ass... If I saw this shit in a dark cavern, I swear there would be so much crap on the ground, I would be shitting myself running away, okay? That is some actual scary stuff to see. Now, obviously, there's so much content in regards to this on the internet that trying to decipher what's real and what isn't is actually really difficult. So we're going to go back and just kind of like get a quick idea of where these claims came from. So about 2 months ago, March actually, I ended up reading through one of these Giza finding posts. So in March, what I ended up finding was like this one post from apparently these 3 scientists, okay? They had this official press release where they were actually having a press conference at the Castel San Pietro Terme in Italy, all right? Where you had Corrado Malanga, Armando May, and Filippo Biondi. I swear one of these characters is like on the actual Sopranos, and I can't confirm exactly which one. But these guys were giving us the Giza, the pyramids, and the temporal gateway. So again, according to their actual project, they did something called the Khafre project, where they used something known as synthetic aperture radar technology, where again, this was something that was out back in 2022, and you can actually dig up one of the original readings from them as well too, one of the original posts. Let me pull that up real quickly. This is a paper from MDPI, and the thing about it is, none of this, from my understanding, is ever peer-reviewed. Like Dr. Hawassa said, no other scientist has really jumped in and confirmed their actual stuff. So again, when you actually read through this actual paper, and again, it's completely available. You can look it up right here, the MDPI, and I highly recommend you do. Again, I'm not hiding any of this from you. I actually want you guys to do a lot of this research yourself and read these things for yourself. So here inside this introduction, they kind of talk about it. The pyramids of Khnum Khufu, also known as the Great Pyramids of Giza, or Cheops, is the oldest and largest of the 3 main pyramids. So just a quick abstract for this is they use a technology known as synthetic aperture radar, which again, due to the poor penetrating action, and I think it was something around like it could literally not see below 10 inches. All right, that's how limited of a range we saw. And that's one of the things Dr. Hawass talked about with Joe Rogan. He was like, the technology just does not work. It does not penetrate. It can't go more than like what, 10 inches, 10 feet? Sorry, not 10 inches, 10 feet, I believe. So ignoring if it can't cross just that distance, how the fuck would it reach 600, down the ground? How would it reach to the depths that are being claimed here? So again, what had come out over here was that under these conditions, imaging action is provided only on the surface of distributed targets. The present work describes an imaging method based on the analysis of micro movements in the pyramid, which are usually generated by background seismic waves. This obtained results proved to be very promising as high-resolution tomographic imaging of the pyramid's interior and subsurface were achieved. So based on this novelty, they completely reconstructed internal objects, observing and measuring structures that have apparently never been discovered before. The experimental results are estimated by processing series of SAR images from the second-generation Italian Cosmo SkyMed satellite system. Again, none of this, from my understanding, has actually been properly peer-reviewed. So no other scientists jumped in and said, yeah, this makes logical sense. You were just kind of supposed to believe what they were throwing at you. Which, if you're a person of science, is the last thing you should be doing. So to go back to their actual showcase over here, that was the first step. And these were the tomographic images that were obtained via their methodology. So now the second step was to focus the radar analysis on the second most important pyramid, the Pyramid of Khafre. So in the second step, what they had found below the ground level of the main structure, according to these scientists, they ended up finding these rods, I guess. I don't know if they were supposed to be electrical rods, but there were some structures that were beneath this pyramid. And the further and further you got into it, so the third step which then they could get the full extent of the underground structures beneath the Giza Plateau, the tomographic images clearly reveal that structures exist beneath the plateau, extending below the pyramids of Khafre, Khufu, and Menkaure. So for approximately 2 kilometers beneath ground zero. So just ignore the fact they couldn't see, what, like 10 feet with this technology. We're supposed to expect that they somehow saw, what, 2 kilometers below the actual goddamn ground? I mean, you have to really understand, 2 kilometers, that's a long distance, okay? That's a long way to just go straight down. And again, when it came to verifying their logic, when it came to verifying their information, nothing really was provided that was peer-reviewed by other scientists. And look, I'm not saying this to laugh at these guys, okay? I'm sure when it comes to this, the scientists from Italy and Zahi Hawass are way smarter than me. Okay, but again, this is one of those things where I always tell people to think critically. Like, if there's 30 scientists in a room and 29 scientists say one thing, and then you've got the one other scientist that comes with a fringe explanation, it's not to say that that scientist is immediately wrong. But the burden of proof is necessarily put onto those scientists. And that one scientist in this case are these 3 guys right here bringing this claim. No other scientist is coming around and saying this is actually verified. And if it was verified, this video would be a lot more bombastic than it is, because this would be a pretty fucking huge archaeological discovery if true. Now again, a lot of the information provided here are on like a lot of these fringe websites, like, well, for instance, Read Multiplex, where this is the only place that I actually found this PDF file in. I didn't even find it anywhere else. It was just this like page right over here where people were like looking into this conspiracy, and they were linking it to a whole bunch of other things as well too. Even according to like this actual like page right over here, the distance to show you right now, which is wild, is according to this, right? The structures that are beneath the pyramid are apparently far taller, 1.46 times taller than the Empire State Building, which you've never seen the Empire State Building. It's a pretty fucking tall building, okay? So these pyramid structures that go deep now, you know, it was already outlandish. Now we're supposed to believe at like the bottom there's like a second city as well? Like, Jesus Christ, make up your mind here. Now again, from the Jerusalem Post, they actually did talk a little bit more about this. The team that stunned the archaeological world in March with the report of vast underground structures says it has detected matching shafts and chambers underneath the neighboring pyramid of Menkaure. So that's where it's at now. So the lead radar guy, Filippo Biondi, literally goes and says there's a new scan that shows a 90% probability that Menkaure shares the same pillars as Khafre, strengthening the views that the 3 Giza pyramids sit atop a single colossal subterranean complex some 2,000 feet below the desert surface. So, of course, obviously, the biggest, Egyptologist, Dr. Hawass, dismisses the claim outright, saying that ground-penetrating radar cannot image thousands of feet below the plateau. He branded their March announcement as bullshit, and has said this is also bullshit, stressing that there's no peer-reviewed data that has been released. But it hasn't stopped like conspiracy theorists and like what we call like alternate historians from like maybe looking at this a little bit more intensely than they ever did before. And the reason why I really care about it is that I'm actually interested in the data that these people provide, because they have made some pretty serious claims. So, you know, it's not shocking to me that like maybe some people would be out for clout, but these are all doctors. You know, these are all people with like some level of like, you know, pedigree, right? Like to an extent. So why would you put your entire, I guess you could say, why would you put your entire balls on the line with a claim like this if you didn't have some evidence that you could absolutely give to other people to verify, right? And maybe they do have that, maybe they don't. But this is where the conspiracies get even deeper, okay? So because of the second city stuff, what's happened more with this and the amount of people that have been kind of covering with videos is all these other individuals have come out and have brought up seriously different like conspiracy theories. So I didn't know about this, and I guess we'll start off with conspiracies that I do know, is that obviously if you've never seen this, for instance, this is what we call the Hollow Earth map. And one of the points is the Pyramid of Giza, right? So the Pyramid of Giza apparently goes all the way to the bottom through what we call man-made tunnels. So I guess this is where like this conspiracy kind of leads into. And there's other locations like Mount Epomeo in Italy, for instance, so conveniently. You've got Kentucky's Mammoth Cave. you've got places in Brazil, and all of this shit goes down, right? So what happens when you go all the way down? You get to the land of Agartha, which is the land of the advanced races. You know, you ever see the conspiracies of like lizard people and shit? Like Obama's a lizard, or what was it, like Queen Elizabeth? Oh, she might have a lizard DNA inside her. Yeah, well, apparently the lizards come from like, I believe, the city of Shambhala, or like a cave city of advanced races. They've got forests. They've got a sun inside the earth, right? Inside the hollow earth. They got a whole ecosystem with clouds and shit. They've got a spaceship base, a literal space airport that goes from and to other galaxies. So, you know, maybe we should ask our Scientologist friends. Maybe they can give us something. I'm not entirely sure. But maybe Xenu has even been here. I'm not entirely... Like, it's so outlandish and wild. And, you know, it's not the only, like, experience that I've seen. It also leads into other conspiracy theories. For instance, if you've never seen, like, the Dulce alien bases, there are actually conspiracies where, like, there is a base in the United States, and I believe it's in Phoenix, and I've shown this on deep web browsing before, right? Where at least if I show you, like, a quick satellite view of it, this would be like a sat view of the base. But underneath the base would be like literal like aliens and shit. So for instance, there would be like these long tunnel networks. There would be like apparently photos where, okay, by the way, let's skip the ad. There would be photos of like these like tubes, specimens kind of like sitting inside them, right? Like alien specimens. They would have like a UFO entry point over here and like different wings like security communications, human staff, executives in lab. It would be like Black Mesa or some shit like that, you know, from like Half-Life. Like here's one example of like more aliens and more like specimens that have been locked in these underground facilities. And Jesus Christ, I really want me to see an ad here. And like sometimes you would see just like really, really goofy shit. Like for instance, right over here you would see like one drawing where they talk about like aliens, womb looks gray, veins look dark gray, creature is white and pale. And again, it would just be scientists allegedly working on these things. Now, I don't know if I have to censor some shit over here, but you would have like goat people, like literal goat people wearing like sweaters, like oversized, like goofy sweaters and stuff from like literally the 60s. It's just wild like claims, right? Like you have to be looking at this and some part of you has to be able to laugh a little bit at it. Now in a perfect world, okay, now, you know, the hopeful part of me, I really kind of wish this stuff was real, but serious claims like this require some pretty serious pieces of evidence. Now, when it comes to the cities, right, because of the massive city explanation over here, there have been other scientists, like, for instance, if you haven't heard the name, Graham Hancock is one journalist and I believe like alternate historian that has come out and talked about it. Now, this guy is pretty big news. He's got a whole Netflix series called Ancient Apocalypse. So much like the History Channel or the Learning Channel or any of these like, you know, educational channels, there's always a level of like alternate reality and timeline shit that you have to get into. And his whole thing is discovering lost civilizations and everything, like civilizations that have been advanced and have been lost to time. And so one of the things that has kind of come out of this is something called the comet theory. So according to businesstoday.india, the comet theory is where geologists link a comet strike around 12,800 years ago to the sudden collapse of prehistoric cultures. So, you know that whole like thing about Assassin's Creed where like a previous like history, like a previous civilization made like humans and like there was like a super advanced civilization that came before us? Yeah, that conspiracy is pretty much rooted in a lot of different conspiracies. It's not new. People have really been thinking about this to no end. So from the NIH.gov, an official website of the United States, the evidence for an extraterrestrial impact almost 13,000 years ago contributed to the megafaunal extinctions and the Younger Dryas cooling. All right, so it was this impact that apparently happened that was the cause for a lot of these advanced civilizations to effectively die out, right? And again, one of the things that people linked it to, at least when it came to Egypt, was something known as the Edfu building texts, okay? Now, if you don't know what the Edfu building texts are, they're basically texts that apparently explain, they're on the Edfu temple, and they talk about the creation of the world, and like the founding of what appears to be like sacred cities and shit like that. There would be wars between gods, just all around wild shit, okay? Something you would see in like a movie. Now, is there validity to this? Some scientists claim it, but that's the thing where we're getting to it, right? Like, there have been so many claims about these pyramids that trying to sift through them is almost like impossible. It's actually a lot. It's way too much for me to read through. So for instance, these are like the Edfu texts over here where you can see these hieroglyphics. And one of the important hieroglyphics that really sets it apart is one known as the Island of the Egg. Now, the Island of the Egg is supposed to be like a prehistoric civilization that was destroyed by, quote unquote, a natural disaster. And the natural disaster was apparently a strike 13,000 years ago. At least that's how it's been linked to. So because the text describes the destruction, right? Like floods, fires from the sky, you would have basically like, at least at the time, people would reasonably believe, okay, they're talking about like asteroids or something of that nature. And it ain't the first time that an asteroid has wiped civilizations and species off of the Earth, right? Like if we look at the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, right? Like there's always a chance, literally always a chance in human history that like we can get hit by an asteroid. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like every time you wake up or like, just think about it like this. The universe is a wild place. There's always asteroids flying around us. It is so incredibly like luck-based that we kind of just like have existed for thousands of years as a species, as we know, and have not been wiped out by a meteor that randomly has hit us, right? Because if a meteor hits us like it hit the dinosaurs, you're talking about like an impact that would be like several different like nuclear weapons at once. It would just wipe civilization out. And then all of a sudden, you're going to look at the next species on planet Earth, if a next species exists, that comes and takes over the place that we rightfully have at this moment. So that's kind of like the explanation or the belief, right? And that's where a lot of these conspiracies kind of lead to. And honestly, like I said, you gotta be skeptical with everything. And it's one of the reasons why like believing this kind of stuff is just really difficult for me, right? Like, sure, could there be a super secret city underneath the pyramids? Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows, right? Like, unless you get a shovel or something and like spend thousands of years digging 2 kilometers below the fucking earth to verify it for yourself. Yeah, realistically, the burden of proof is on the actual researchers themselves. These are fun things to kind of talk about and to kind of like, engage in the mind. But, obviously, if every scientist is saying there's really no evidence or peer reviews that we can do, then realistically, all this is meant for is just kind of taking a little laugh here and there. Now, unless, of course, in the next couple of weeks, these scientists completely shit all over Zahi Hawass and come with irrefutable evidence, then yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we, I guess, have evidence or like proof of a advanced civilization that lived 2,000 feet below us. And if that turns out to be true, then who's to say shit like the hollow earth theory might not be true, right? I mean, scientists has kind of proven to an extent what the makeup of the earth kind of looks like. But yeah, it's just a wild situation to get down into, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, there has been apparently a second city underneath the Giza pyramids. Has it been proven? Absolutely not. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to seeing what evidence comes out. Because to be real with you, I always love to be proven wrong. And I know that there's a group of you guys watching these videos that love the conspiracy side of the internet. I know that I do. I know that people watching do. And this almost feels like something that I would have read on the dark web, but no, it's being presented by actual quote-unquote scientists. So what is true and what isn't, I'm going to keep an open mind. But I'm also going to remain completely skeptical, right? Which I think all of you should. Simple as that, all right? Follow the science, not what you're dreaming of. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.